Good morning, friends. So this will be your second video covering the amendments applicable for your exam, which is May 2020. So I thought we will split the amendments itself in two videos. That's why the previous part's amendment, I covered one half of the list. In this part, I would be covering one more part of the list, but we will still be left with two more amendments from this list, which we will straight away be doing along with our chapter 9 and chapter 10, which I'm absolutely aware of the fact I have kept it pending. So I am receiving text messages pouring onto my inbox asking, ma'am, would you be covering chapter 9 and 10? I have promised you something, and please be rest assured that I will not breach my promise. And I hear from you saying that, ma'am, you have said that group 2 people will already have the opportunity of learning chapter 9 and 10, and therefore we can take over it from there. I never said like that. I only said that you will have an edge over group people doing just one group because you would have already heard the same lecture from Chandan sir. But that doesn't mean I'm not doing the chapter again. I'm definitely doing the chapters once again here. I am making two separate videos exclusively for chapter 9 and chapter 10 so that you have some comfort levels in understanding the lectures along with your handout by your side. So I will make sure that they are split as two separate videos so that you can take notes parallelly, answer questions parallelly as I'm taking you through these sections. Okay. So in this video, I am doing a quick recap on the amendments that we have already covered in the previous class. And then let me cover the new amendments as such. Okay. So like in the previous class, I would do a screen share in today's class too. So the screen goes like this. So look at the screen. So this screen explains to us the sections that were deleted from the syllabus. So this is something that you should definitely keep a note on. You must have already scrapped it from your classroom material. If you have not done it, please do it without fail. So we have almost say 5 sections in PAS and then 5 sections in chapter 4, 1 on deposits and then 2 on charges chapter. And then let me start with a recap on the first amendment that I discussed in the last class, which was about the naming rules with respect to incorporation matters incidental thereto. So this is something I already covered. I have already explained to you that this just does with this amendment is just to do with the presentation pattern, which is split into 3 parts. The first part will talk about names that are resembling the names that are already existing. Second part will talk about undesirable names. And then the third part, which would talk about the words or expressions which can be used only after getting the previous approval of central government. So all these 3 parts are clear. And then section 26, I have explained to you the alteration which pertains only to the change in the word registration instead of the word, change in the word filing with ROC instead of the word registration with ROC. So let me have that corrected. So instead of reading it as registration with ROC, you're going to read it as filing with ROC. How does it matter? Because you don't get a certificate for registration in return. That's why they have made the change. Section 29, I would definitely call it as a must read because this is a significant amendment. So you will see the material also. You will get the copy of this material. So I'm marking it as must read. So read it a couple of times to have them registered in your minds. So the section is now going to extend to all the companies that are going to go public for mobilizing funds from general public. That's why the change where they have deleted the word public in terms of the applicability of the section. And then they have inserted a new subsection which is going to talk about unlisted companies which are going to go for issuance of shares. And then the rules pertaining to that. I have already covered this in detail. Therefore, I'm not redoing it once again. But I just wanted to draw your attention that you should read it. Section 35's change is just similar to section 26 change on PAS. And then in share capital and debentures chapter, I have already explained the changes that were made in DVRs in terms of the percentage of composition of DVRs in the total paid up capital. And then I have also explained the eligibility criteria for issuance of DVR. And then the issuance of stock option. Please note, in this, the change pertains only with respect to the meaning of the term startup company. For startup companies, the exemption on the definition of the term employee, which is going to cover its promoters and directors, can be enjoyed by them for a span of 10 years, unlike 5 years from their incorporation, which was given previously. Okay. And then I'm now moving on to the next one. The next amendment is going to be on your debenture redemption reserve. Because this is a slightly bigger one and because I did not do debentures at length during our regular classes, I thought I would take up debentures for a detailed discussion in today's class. Okay, so that is the whole purpose behind it. So I'm doing debentures at length now. So let me explain to you the concept of debentures. The change here, if you notice, is made only with respect to the debenture rules. Substitution of the provisions on DRR with new provisions is with respect to the debenture rules. It's not in the section. Okay, changes were made in the company's debenture rules. Debenture rules meaning companies within brackets share capital and debentures amendment close the bracket rules of the year 2018. So let me take you to the next screen, which is going to be on your debenture section. Okay, so let me pick that debenture section now for your understanding. So in the debenture section, if you notice, that section is let me drag my toolbar. So look at the debenture rules. This is the rules in which they have made the change, and I am taking you through the debenture section. Okay, this is the section relating to debentures. What is a debenture? We are aware that when a company mobilizes funds in the form of debt and issues an underlying security for the debt that it has mobilized from people or from bank or from financial institutions, that security issued in return for that is called as a debenture, which means the underlying security is a debenture. Okay, you can have the debentures issued with an option to convert them into shares either fully or partly at the time of redemption, which means they can be convertible debentures too or non-convertible debentures too. But you cannot have classification in terms of redemption nature of the debenture. We are aware that debentures that are issued can only be redeemable in nature. There can never be irredeemable debentures. Okay. So we are also aware that when a debenture is issued convertible in nature, it requires special resolution of the members naturally, because when a debenture is going to get converted into equity, does it have an impact on our investors or not? It does. If something has got an impact on the investors, then what type of a resolution would you seek for that? Ordinary or a special resolution? I can hear you saying special resolution. That's right. So you will pass a special resolution. Is that right? And we are aware of the fact debenture is not going to carry a voting right. All these are forming part of your classroom notes. Therefore, I'm just taking you through it. Okay. And then we are aware, when a company is issuing debenture, it is required to constitute a reserve, which is known as debenture redemption reserve. Okay. So that is something which is very, very important. Any company that is issuing would constitute a debenture redemption reserve according to the statement, but as per the conditions that are going to be discussed in our rules, we will see about it later. Next point. When a company is, no company shall issue prospectus making invitation to public or to its members exceeding 500 for the subscription of debentures unless the company before such issue is made has made an appointment of a debenture trustee. What is this character called as a debenture trustee? Understand the concept very clearly. Whenever a company is going to issue debentures to general public in excess of the count of 500, note the point. If you are going to invite subscription from public in excess of the count of 200, the company is called as a public company. Okay. That is different. Now this is about debentures. When a company is going to make an offer or an invitation to public or its members, note the point. Even if it is going to make it for its own members, whose count is going to exceed 500. Okay, this is not about going public issue on debentures. They just make the eligibility, make the requirement of having a debenture trustee in terms of the count of the number of people who are going to subscribe for debentures. If that count exceeds 500, then every company which is making an offer or an invitation to offer to its public or to its members should appoint somebody called as a debenture trustee. Who is a debenture trustee? Let me explain to you that concept first. Whenever a company is issuing debentures to account in excess of 500, the company shall constitute something called as a debenture trust. What is a trust? A trust is something which is being formed by the person to whom the idea of forming it has first struck, whom I will call as author of the trust. Okay? The author is the person to whom the idea of forming the trust has first struck. So I form the trust. I here means the company, the author. Company forms a trust and it appoints a neutral person to take care of the affairs of the trust, who is called as a trustee. In our case, it is called as a debenture trustee, which will be a bank or a financial institution. We also have companies in India which are incorporated with the names IDBI, within brackets, Debenture Trustee Company Limited. So a bank will have a subsidiary which functions the role of, whose main business is particularly to do the role of a debenture trustee. They will do the role of a debenture trustee. I, the author, the company, will appoint a trustee, namely the debenture trustee, who will work for the benefit of the beneficiary of the trust, who will be our debenture holders. Okay, so I have introduced three characters. Myself, the author, the company issuing debenture, the person who runs the trust, who manages the affairs of the trust, is the debenture trustee, And then the person for whom it is run is the beneficiary, which is our own debenture holders or the creditors. So I would probably put it like this in simple terms. A trust is a triangular relationship. Author, debenture trustee, beneficiary, which is the debenture holder. As per the instructions and the promises made by the debenture issuing company to the beneficiary, debenture trustee will execute it for the welfare of the beneficiary. So when I am issuing a debenture, all of them are secured in nature. I have an underlying security or an asset of the company earmarked against the debenture. The fact that that asset is going to be utilized only for the purpose of failure of redemption of that debenture will be ensured by the debenture trustee in favor of the debenture holders. And debenture trustee will also ensure that the debentures are redeemed on time in favor of who? The debenture holders. And the interest is paid on time in favor of whom? The debenture holders. And if there was a default or if there was an extension required to be sought, that has been appropriately sought from them, and then only it is made a delayed payment. That is also ensured by the debenture trustee. And worst case, if there was a default, then the whole power of taking the charge of the asset, disposing them, realizing the funds, settling the debenture holders is all being done by the debenture trustee. This is the role of a debenture trustee. So what do you think about a debenture trustee? Does he play a neutral role between the author and the beneficiary or not? Yes, he does. So naturally, that character cannot be somebody who is closely inclined to the company who is the author of the trust. Therefore, he cannot be a promoter. There are restrictions in director being a debenture trustee, a major stakeholder being a debenture trustee, a major creditor being a debenture trustee. So who cannot be a debenture trustee is again a subject matter of discussion. Okay. So with this on one side, ma'am, what does the amendment actually pertain to? That's where I'm taking you to. The amendment pertains to the debenture rules, which talks about which of the companies should have the requirement of having a debenture redemption fund. Okay, they have made some major changes with respect to that. So I'm taking you all through the amendment now. So companies shall comply with the requirements with regard to debenture redemption reserve, DRR. Don't confuse this with your deposit repayment reserve. Okay, and investment or deposit of sum in respect of debentures maturing during the year ended 31st of March of the next year in accordance with the conditions given below. Okay, so this is just the briefing on DRR, so don't get confused. What is a DRR? It's created out of the profits of the company, which is available after payment of dividend, right? So we are aware of it. And then the next point says, the limits and the adequacy of the debenture, they have now made some changes. Look at the DRR. I have presented some charts to make you understand things better. So the applicability of DRR, let's look at it. For all India financial institutions and banking companies, what is an all India financial institution? An all India financial institution is something which you have seen under the definition of the word financial institution under the Companies Act in your definitions handout. So I'm sure you all remember the definition. Financial institution is one which is notified by central government and by the RBI, and it includes banking companies, correct? So, and it includes scheduled banks. So apart from scheduled banks, you also have banking companies. Okay, so now understand the provision. So we are now talking about all India financial institutions and banking companies. In that, for those who are listed, what is the DRR requirement? And that those who are unlisted, what is the DRR requirement? Okay, so understand something clearly. All India financial institutions and banking companies, whether or not they are listed or enlisted, whether or not they are going for public issue or private placement, creation of DRR is exempt. It's not required, not required, not required, not required. You get my point? So which means, let me put it straight. All India financial institutions and banking companies, whether listed or unlisted, whether it is going to be public issue or private placement, do not have the requirement of creating something called as debenture redemption reserve. Point number one is clear. Okay, next one. NBFCs registered with RBI under section 45(1)(a) of the RBI Act. Ma'am, idella pathila nee kavalapada vendam. Idu RBI Act kizha edu NBFC, so adha pathi avan sollirukan. Okay, so they are telling you NBFCs registered with Reserve Bank of India and housing finance companies who is a regulator for them, we are aware. NHB, which is the National Housing Bank, for them, what is the requirement? Look at it. For NBFCs and your NHBs, the requirement goes like this. Okay, for NBFCs and NHBs, this is the requirement. Whether or not they are listed or unlisted, when they are listed, the provision goes like this. If an NBFC is a listed NBFC, ma'am, give me an example for a listed NBFC. Sundaram Finance is an example for a listed NBFC. Shriram Finance is an example for a listed NBFC. Okay. And then I would say Kotak, and then I would put it like this. First Leasing Company is one listed NBFC. Okay. We have a lot of listed NBFCs in India, bigger names and smaller names are also there. So listed NBFC, when it is going for a public issue, they don't have to create debenture redemption reserve. Okay. When they go for private placement, they're not required to create debenture redemption reserve. Note the point. In the second point, if it's an unlisted NBFC, they're not required to create debenture redemption reserve. But if the NBFC is a listed NBFC, whether they go for public issue or private placement, it does not matter. They have to create something called as a debenture redemption fund. Note the point. They don't have to create DRF, but they have to create something called as a DRF, debenture redemption fund. Okay. What is a DRF? Reserve is different, fund is different, sir. Fund is something where you deposit a portion of money of the amount of deposits maturing in the 31st of March subsequent year to a set of funds that is mentioned by the central government, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So you will make an investment for the welfare of debenture holders in favor of debenture. You don't create a reserve. Instead, you make the investment in the funds that are prescribed by the government of India. That is a DRF, debenture redemption fund. Okay. And then if the NBFC is unlisted, you have no problem. You don't have to create both DRR as well as DRF. So, ma'am, DRR requirement. As of now, there is no DRR requirement until the ones we saw. All India banking, all India financial institutions, no. Banking companies, no. NBFCs, no. What about this DRF? This is there for listed NBFCs alone. As of now, this is the clarity. Do you all have a clear picture? If you don't have it, I thought I will not repeat it here. Since you have the privilege of rewinding and hearing it again, please rewind and hear this repeatedly until it gets registered in your mind and until you are able to see the same statement along with me parallelly. So I am moving to the third item in the list. So who is the third category they are targeting? They are targeting on other companies. Ma'am, what do you mean by other companies? Other companies, I mean those, yeah, those who are not banking companies, financial institutions, NBF, okay, I'm sorry, NBFCs, NHBs, okay. Other than these, whichever companies come to your mind, they all come under the category of the term other companies. Ma'am, give me examples. A normal Tata Power, okay, Tata Power. Take any industry other than finance industries. It's like that. Tata Power, Reliance Industries, okay, Tata Iron and Steel, and then you can take smaller companies. And then you can take retail industries, FMCGs like Hindustan Lever, okay. You can take PNG. You can take Hindustan Lever and then Amrithanjan. You can take companies like any small companies for that matters, ITC. Small or big, irrespective of the nature of the industry they belong to. They should not be from the financing and banking background for those industries. What is the requirement? Can they also issue DRR? Yes. I mean, can they also issue debentures? Very much. Any company can issue debentures. If they can collect deposits, they can issue debentures as well. So in that category, in any other company category, if the company is a listed company, note the point. Whether or not it's a public issue or a private placement, DRR is waived. I'm repeating it. Other listed companies, DRR is waived, which means debenture redemption reserve is waived. But DRF requirement still continues to exist. Ma'am, in the DRF ki ettana ma'am paisa podnu. Adum vara. I'm telling you that later. Okay. And then unlisted companies irukku. What is an unlisted company? Unlisted public company category I'm talking about. Okay. A company which is not a listed company, but it is neither a banking company, NBFC finance companies or NHBs. It's like that, those companies. For them alone, there is a DRR requirement. What is the requirement? They have to create a reserve which is not less than 10% of the value of the outstanding debentures. And then they should also be creating a DRF. So overall, the picture is like this, sir. I have also given it in the form of a table for your convenience. All India financial institutions, both for public issue and private placement, no. For both DRR and DRF. Banking companies for both public issue, private placement, it's no. NBFCs, which are listed for public issue, No, but for DRF, yes. Private placement, DRR, no. Public, and then for DRF, yes. Whereas if the same NBFC or NHB, housing finance company is unlisted, then it's no. Okay, for both. I have just mentioned private placement. I think it's for unlisted. Okay, it's for both private placement and for public issue. It's no. Other listed companies, public issue, private placement. So you don't have the requirement, listed companies, okay? You don't have the requirement of DRR, but you have the requirement of DRF. But for other unlisted companies, you have the requirement of creating the reason why I have mentioned private placement is they are unlisted, right? So they can't, if they have to go for public, then they will come under this category. Another private placement. Ma'am, public issue land solely okay? So other listed companies, private placement, they have the requirement of DRR2, DRF2. You got my point? So is the understanding clear? Is the table clear to everybody? So the table read with the charts should explain to you who have the requirement of creation of DRR, who have the requirement of creation of DRF. Okay, any questions until this? Can I proceed further? And then I'm moving on. Provided that the amount remaining invested or deposited as the case may be shall not at any time fall below 15% of the amount of debentures maturing during the year ended 31st March of the 31st of March. In the 15% answer in the DRF. This is your DRF requirement. Okay, so I hope you have clarity on this. This is your DRF requirement, this 15%. Okay, and then for the purpose of the clause above, what are the places where you can make that investment? DRF. The methods of deposits or investment, as the case may be, are as follows. A, deposits in scheduled bank. You can deposit in a scheduled bank, free from charge or lien, or in unencumbered securities of government or central government, or in bonds that are approved by the Indian Trust Act. So they have given to you the list of places where you can invest. This part may not take too much of attention of the institute. Okay, so I'm just reading it for your benefit. Provided that any amount invested or deposited as above shall not be used for any purpose other than the redemption of debenture. Naturally, that's why we create this fund, right? And in case of partly convertible debentures, DRR is created in respect of the non-convertible portion, naturally. So for the convertible portion into shares, you don't have to worry about it. Anyways, they're going to become share one day and they become the owners of the company. Only for the non-convertible part, DRR should be created. Sometimes students ask me this question, ma'am, in convertible debentures, is there a requirement of DRR? Definitely, right? For the convertible part, it's not required. For the non-convertible part, it is required in cases where it's a partly convertible debenture. And then the amount of DRR shall not be utilized for by the company for any purpose except for the redemption of debentures. So I think with this, the debenture redemption part is clear to everyone. So let me do a quick run through on the debentures redemption. I have briefed to you the provisions relating to debenture section. Okay, so debenture subsection 1, if you notice, I am just explaining this once again. This is just about the fact that it can be convertible either wholly or partly. And then if it is going to be wholly or partly convertible, you require special resolution of members. They don't carry voting rights. And then each secured debentures may be issued as per the terms and conditions. The terms and conditions are the ones that we are seeing now, secured debentures. And then debentures are issued under the section should have the requirement of creating a debenture redemption reserve. And more about that, we just read in the rules. Fifth point says if you're going to make an issue of debentures to public or to members, again and again I repeat this point, either to public or to, because this is a potential MCQ, that's why, either to public or to members, and if the count exceeds 500, then in that case, it can be, it has the requirement of having somebody called as a debenture trustee. This is when you can't have a trustee blindly, you have to create a trust. Trust is a tripartite agreement, and then only you can have it, and then only you can have a debenture trustee appointed. So, and then the debenture trustee will take care of the grievances of the debenture holders, all that I have explained. And then this point is also about debenture trustee. Company shall pay interest and redeem the debentures in accordance with the conditions. This also we are aware of. So debenture trustee, in case they have insufficient funds to discharge the debts of the debenture holders, they can make a petition to NCLT. Note the point, which means on behalf of the debenture holders, who will make a petition for inability of the company to make a payment? Debenture trustee can do that work of filing a petition. And if the company fails to redeem the debenture on the maturity date, then the tribunal can, on the application of the debenture holders or the debenture trustee, pass necessary orders. And then just the penalty part, which is the debenture section is fully covered. Please note it. Therefore, I close this part. So if you want a reference on this, I can provide. This is, I'm just referring to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs section number. Okay. 71 on debentures. And then I'm coming to the debenture rules. Either I engage on particular because the amendment part of the debenture rules, I am already covering it in this handout that you will be seeing as a revision material. So with that, the debenture amendment is done. So overall, if you notice, I have covered chapter 2 incorporation, chapter amendments, and then I have covered the amendments on PAS, and then I have covered the amendments on your chapter 4, capital and debentures. You don't have any amendments in your chapter 5, except for the omission of one section. Chapter 6, except for the omission of one section, and that which was an amendment in chapter 6, I have already covered it in the classroom, which is with respect to the registration dates, and that was also not particularly for your batch, it was the previous batch, but I have covered it already. Okay, and then I hope you get what amendment I'm talking about. The registration dates, creation of charge, 30 days plus extra days plus condonation of delay, that one. Okay, and then the next amendment pertains to your accounts chapter. This I will straight away cover it along with your accounts and accounts chapter 9 discussion. That is just one of them. And then one other was with respect to CSR. This also I cover it parallel. With that, we complete the amendments pertaining to company law in this. There are just 2 amendments in the other laws. Both of these amendments are very, very popular amendments. You must have read them very frequently in the newspapers few months back. So after the change that was made in the Articles of Association for the inclusion of Jammu and Kashmir, they drafted an act which was called as Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act of the year 2019. So that made a change in the applicability of 2 of our other laws, which was the Indian Contract Act and your General Clauses Act. So the point that you have been learning from your CA foundation, that applicability of ICA 1872 is for the whole of India, excepting Jammu and Kashmir, is now scrapped. So you will now have it scrapped. So it's just for whole of India. Okay. Same is the case with your General Clauses Act. It has been extended to the whole of India. That's all about the changes in other laws. Okay. So what I have done is, for the best interest of you, I have also given the amendments that were applicable for your previous batch, immediate previous batch, I mean, which is your November 2019 batch. So all the amendments that were applicable for them, that I have covered it part of this in your Annexure B. This is also for your reference. Okay, so I'm just quickly running through. The first amendment that was applicable for the previous batch was on the definition of the term financial year. So if the company, so look at the definition. So the definition reads that if a company was outside India and if they want to follow a different financial year, I hope you remember that, they can make an application to the central government instead of tribunal. That was the amendment. I'm sure you also read it as central government and not as tribunal, if I'm right. If not, have it changed. That was the only change. And then we learned about section 10A, commencement of business. This was newly inserted for them, but for you, I already included it part of the classroom discussions. And then there was there was one part in your articles which spoke about conversion of companies into private to public, which required earlier tribunal approval, but now it just requires central government approval. Okay, it's not tribunal approval. So this also, I think I have covered in the classroom lectures. Same thing here, the conversion part. And then on prohibition of issue of shares at discount, the penalty underwent a change. In case this new penalty was not part of your regular notes, you can learn it from here. The penalty was revised. So look at the penalty. When a company fails to comply with the section, the penalty for the officer in default and the company will be a sum equivalent to the amount raised, or 5 lakhs, whichever is less, and the company shall also refund all the amount received with an interest of 12%. This is the change. Okay. And then section 64, subsection 2, on notice to be given for alteration of capital, the penalty is changed. Just a change in the penalty. Therefore, I'm not getting into the details. 77 on registration of charge. This was already covered part of the charges chapter. The changes in the timelines. If you remember, I asked you to scrap the contents in your material and I gave you a new provision. If you want a soft copy of it, I have pasted it here. You can utilize this. And then similarly in 86, the penalty part, they made a small change with respect to 447 applicability. This also I was covering it part of the classroom lectures. And then substitution of 87, rectification of central government part. So this is about filing condonation of delay. When can you file it? There is more better clarity. I have covered it technically in the classroom, but for your ease, I have also pasted it here. You can just, there's not much changes between what is in your material and this. You can just read it for your benefit. Section 90, subsection 9 is a very comprehensive topic. Therefore, we haven't touched upon it. The institute also does not want you to get into its detail. And with respect to annual return, this is just a penalty substitution. So you can browse through this one too. And in section 102 also, there's just a penalty change. This also you can touch upon it. And in proxies, again, it's a penalty change. Okay. And then once again, it's a penalty change in proxy. And then on report of AGM, it's again a penalty change. Okay. And then these are about your audit and auditors chapter. The amended versions will be taught in the lectures relating to your chapter 9 and chapter 10. So don't feel I have rushed through the amendments on November 19 because they were for the previous batch. I rushed them through. Some of them were forming part of the material, and if not, you can just have a quick run through on the penalties part. So with that, I think the amendments applicable for May 2020 is fully done with this lecture, barring just 2 of them. One was on the NFRA, and the other one is on corporate social responsibility. Both of these are going to form part and parcel of the lecture on chapter 9, which is on accounts of companies. Thank you so much. Thanks for your patience in listening to the amendments. So this videos just for once, along with the material, if you browse through a couple of times, is more than sufficient to cover the amendments. Thank you. Meet you with a detailed lecture on chapter 9 and chapter 10, followed by question and answer discussions from the various RTPs and the past question papers. So you will probably have to listen 5 more videos on law, which will all be of the same size. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Keep in touch.